Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Welcome to my presentation, Govern Your Data Estate with Microsoft Purview. In my day job, I am the Chief Executive for Data Strategy at BitQ. We are headquartered in Brisbane, Australia, but we do operate internationally. I'm a Microsoft MVP and have been in the data insight space for over 20 years. I am also the founder and co-organizer for the Queensland Power BI user group. Let's take a look at the topics that we will cover in this session. We'll start off with exploring why we need a data catalog. Then I'll introduce you to Microsoft Purview. With limited time, I will introduce you to the main concepts and features of Purview without covering every feature in significant detail. We will have a short demo of the product. And finally, I will summarize how Purview improves your Power BI governance as well. Before we get into it, just a quick disclaimer. As these sessions are recorded, I had to record my session almost 2 months before the event, so some things may have changed by now, and new features may be present. As the main aim of the session is to introduce you to Purview, this shouldn't create an issue for us. And if you have any questions, I will be live on the chat and Q&A during the session. Please feel free to ask any questions. So why do we need a data catalog? Typically, organizations are not able to centrally identify all the different data sets, reports, and other data products that exist in their organization. A data catalog is exactly that, a central repository for all data assets. A data catalog allows data stewards to curate the data assets. This could include descriptions of a data set or even if at the field level, as well as assigning glossary terms and classifying the type of data. A well-implemented data catalog aids your organization with discovery of your existing data assets. It is quite common for different people across different departments to not be aware of all the data assets that exist across the organization. And the data catalog should be acting as that window to what data assets are being held across the organization. Most good data catalogs will also help you understand what the lineage of our data asset is. Imagine your database developers want to change the data type of a field in a database. The lineage in the data catalog will assist with identifying all the assets that are dependent on that field, thereby being able to assess the impact that the change may have. Also, imagine a business user wants to understand where the report that they are using gets data from. Lineage will allow them to see this. Data catalogs often also present quality metrics about the data back to the consumers, which helps provide a level of comfort about the data they are using. Now, there are other benefits to a catalog, but these are the primary ones. So what is Microsoft Purview? Microsoft Purview is a unified data governance service that helps you manage and govern your on-premise, multi-cloud, and software as a service data. You can easily create a holistic, up-to-date map of your data landscape with automated data discovery, sensitive data classification, and end-to-end data lineage. At the time of recording this, there are 2 new capabilities that are in preview, namely data sharing and data policy. You'll notice these in grey in the diagram. We won't be going into these during the rest of the presentation, but it is important to know a bit about them as they will become very important capabilities once they go generally available. Data sharing allows your organization to share and manage in-place data sets with others, both internal and external to your organization. Data policy allows your organization to create workflows for users to request access to data and have this granted by the data owner without IT's involvement. Taking this further, you can also create policies that will automatically grant or deny access based on a set of rules. This is the Purview Governance Portal. It is a single centralized place that provides a unified experience for data producers, data consumers, and security officers. This is your interface to all things in Microsoft Purview. The Purview Governance Portal is divided into activity hubs, which you can see down the left side here. These organize the tasks needed for managing data governance activities. These are Home, Sources, Glossary, Insights, Manage, and Data Share, which we'll discuss in detail in the following slides. The Purview Governance Portal also allows ease of access to get updates, switch accounts to get notifications, and provide feedback via the icons that you can see highlighted in this slide. And I should mention at this point that the documentation available for Purview is excellent. It is some of the best documentation I've ever seen for a product released in recent times. Role assignments in Purview can be quite granular. Permissions are set at a collection level, which will be explained in more detail later. This allows you fine-grained control over who can see and edit what. This handy matrix shows what the different roles allow. Something to note, the creator of the Purview account will automatically have full access in Purview. This should be considered when provisioning the service, but can be changed after the fact. I'll just pause on the slide for a second to give people a chance to consume that. Okay, moving on. When you select the Home Activity Hub, you see the Home page. The Home page is a starting point for activities with key links to tasks, artifacts, and documentation based on user role. As you can see, there are catalog metrics, a search bar, tiles for key activities, recently accessed items, and some links. And again, I'll point out the links to the documentation there. It's a great place to learn the technicalities behind implementing Purview. Sources is where you map your data to manage an enriched metadata map of operational and transactional data, no matter where it lives. Today, Purview comes with a host of sources that it can scan out of the box, and you can be sure that more out-of-the-box scanners are on the way. With Purview, you enjoy the following benefits: automated scanning of on-prem, multi-cloud, software as a service data. You can leverage turnkey integrations with Power BI, SQL, on-prem, Azure, managed instance, and key Azure data services such as Azure Synapse, Cosmos DB, and Azure Data Lake storage. Manage metadata and scale understanding of data with automated, fully managed serverless metadata management capability. And leverage Apache Atlas open APIs to programmatically push metadata and lineage from a wide range of open source data systems. This means that if Purview does not come with a source out of the box, you're not precluded from using that source in Purview. Simply build your own custom integration using well-defined and documented APIs. In order to harness the benefits mentioned in the previous slide, you need to first register all of your sources. This is done by using the Register button. Once you click this, you're presented with a pop-up window that presents all your options to you. At the time of recording this, there were 36 out-of-the-box connectors available. With most of the well-known sources already catered for, we can reasonably expect that this list will keep growing. You should also note that Purview will need certain permissions to the sources you register in order to do the scanning work that it needs to do. As an example, if the source is an Azure SQL database, there are 4 different ways to provide access. These are a system-assigned managed identity, a user-assigned managed identity, a service principal, or SQL authentication. The preferred approach in most instances is the system-assigned managed identity, which is created for you when you provision Purview. Once you have successfully registered sources, you can set up scans to enrich business value of data with technical, business, and semantic metadata. The options you are presented with here will vary depending on the type of the source that you've selected. This screenshot is showing what you're asked about Power BI. Depending on the source type, you can scope your scan to select subsets of the data. As an example, for storage accounts, you can select the entire storage account or just a few containers or even down to specific files. Another example is a relational database where you can choose which tables are scanned or scan all of them. You can select file types for scanning as well, and you can define custom file types. In case your organization has a file type that is not an industry standard, you can actually define how that looks. You can specify business value with terms, sensitivity, compliance, industry, and company-defined classifiers. There are 100 plus built-in classifiers shared between Microsoft 365 and Purview. Define your own custom classifiers and Microsoft Information Protection sensitivity labels. You have fine-grained control over scheduled scans or even just the ability to scan once off. Keep in mind that one of the cost components of Purview is scans. You pay for the compute resources used while scanning, so you do want to be pragmatic about how often you scan. Searching and browsing is where you discover your data based on relevance using signals derived from scanning, classification, and business context. You'll view the results of your search sorted either by relevance or by name. Further filter your results by glossary terms, classifications, or by the contact that has been allocated to that asset, and other. When looking at an individual asset, you can discover operational, semantic, and business information about that asset. The 3 areas are highlighted here. In the schema section, we can view the schema of the data set. Here we can discover technical, semantic, and business information about specific data sets and their fields. Authorized users can also edit the classifications, glossary terms, and descriptions here. The lineage view allows you to trace lineage of assets across the data estate. The benefits of this are ensure data provenance with a visual representation of owners, sources, transformations, and life cycle. Leverage support of Apache Atlas's open source lineage APIs and built-in integrations with solutions such as Data Factory, Power BI, and Azure Data Share. Analyze the impact of changes to data and understand dependencies visually. And root cause analysis of failures by inspecting dependencies upstream and determine downstream impact. In the context section, you can identify experts and owners of the data asset. In the related section, you can browse assets by hierarchy. This works for unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data. Quite often this is a valuable resource for users to discover other assets that belong to the same data pipelines or storage locations. The Business Glossary allows you to create a consistent and curated understanding of business terms and definitions. You can create new terms, which can be tagged onto assets to allow for better discoverability. This helps with search and being able to identify all assets that have been associated with a term. Any existing glossaries you may have can be imported in bulk. Your organization can also manage different templates for different terms. Here you can create new glossary terms to allow for business-specific vocabulary to be applied to your data assets. Terms allow for hierarchy, which is defined by selecting a parent, and you can add multiple acronyms to a term. Resources allow you to link the term to documents or URLs that provide more information to those using them. You can understand business context associated with the data in the organization by being able to view the assets associated with a particular term. You can bulk import business terms from existing dictionaries, thereby saving your organization a lot of time if such dictionaries already exist. You have the flexibility to define business term templates per business domain, which helps in situations where some departments want more information to be provided than others. With custom classification rules, you can define your own data pattern along with thresholds to reduce false positives. This is typically done with regular expressions. Or you can have it classified based on the name of a column. Insights are intended to help users such as chief data officers quickly understand their data estate at large and gain key insights such as where sensitive data resides. Use asset insights to see where all the data resides across a range of data sources. Glossary insights to understand changes made to business terms and how much coverage glossary has over your data map. Sensitive data insights to simplify compliance risk assessment across operational and transactional data sources. Assess risk and derive audit trails of data qualified by sensitivity and business relevance. Finally, we have the Management Center, which provides the ability to manage account information, feature options, author workflows, manage requests and approvals, and manage credentials. You can also view information on and manage connections to Azure Data Factories and Azure Data Shares. Okay, I'm now going to switch to a live demo, and we'll also discuss pricing during this demo. So let me switch over to my browser for the demo. Okay. As you can see, I've now opened up my browser to the Azure portal, and I've gone into the resource, which is my Microsoft Purview demo account. Now, yeah, you'll notice various things like managing users, links to the documentation, and other things that you can see about your Purview account. Something to note is that currently my demo account, which is pretty small, is only consuming one capacity unit, and this is important when we get to the conversation around costs and licensing. All right, okay. Next I would click on Open the Microsoft Purview Governance Portal. I already have that open here as another tab, and this is the page you land at when you first click into it. Let me go ahead and search So let's say I'm looking for address information and I search for address. Anything that's been scanned that contains the word address in my environment is brought up, and as you can see, always is related to addresses as well. So you can see quite a lot has come back. So I will go into this dim address, which is an Azure dedicated SQL pool table. So here's the overview page, which I did show in some slides, but we'll take you through a live demo of this. You can see that within the schema that it's found 3 different classifications, and the lightning bolt sort of indicates that the classification was done using the automatic rules and not done by a human who had deliberately added a classification. Properties just show us some basic stuff, and these will vary depending on what type of asset it is. Is it a file in a file system, or is it a table in a database? They'll, whatever it is, they'll all have different properties associated with them. Yeah, we can view the schema, and this is also where people with appropriate permissions can go and add things like glossary terms and classifications to these columns. So we'll hit the edit button, and you can see that we now get drop downs, so you can do things like add custom glossary terms. So we may want to say, well, hey, this is an address. That would typically be done more at the table level, but you can do it on columns, and you can add as many glossary terms as you like, so multiple can be done. As an example, with this one, I've added 2 column level classifications. You can also give descriptions, which this is where you would add a lot of value to your environment by getting subject matter experts to go and document the columns in your tables, as an example. And you can also come here to edit the contacts that are associated with this table. So I'll go ahead and save that. And now you can see the classifications. Let's go and have a look at lineage. And here you can see the lineage all the way from the source SQL table through the data factory copy activities to blob storage, and then further data factory activities loading tables into a dedicated SQL pool, and further data factory that uses this dim address table to ultimately land the fact customer address table. You can do things like view columns if you want. By default, this is off. And obviously if you had a long lineage, you could move around, you could zoom in, zoom out, etc. When the users click on the Contacts tab, they can see who the experts associated with this table are and who the owners are. Specifying owners against your assets is really important, especially with some of the future functionality that's currently either in preview or still being developed, where owners are going to have a lot of permissions or capability to grant access to their assets without needing IT involvement. And you can also go and see things that are related to the asset. So in this case, we can see that the hierarchy of, the table is in the ADV schema within this database, within that server, and it has relationships to the following things within that database. Okay, so that's how you view a particular asset. If we go back to the search results here, this is where you can see things like filtering. I mentioned, you can filter things by contact, by type, by classification. So, ultimately users should be able to find what they're looking for very easily. Okay. So as you saw through all the screenshots in my presentation, there's various things. This is the sources view, which you can have as a map, which you're currently seeing it at, or just as a table if you prefer. Really is a personal preference when it comes to that. So let's have a look around a bit further. That was showing sources, but yeah, collections, and collections are really important. And you can have hierarchies of collections, but it is at the collection level that permissions are set. So what you'll notice is that we have different collections, yeah, but in this case, I've set all my permissions at the root collection level. So if we go to the role assignment section, you can see the different roles that I showed you with the matrix in my presentation. But this is where you do the assignment by clicking the plus button over there. Now, why this is important is, although I've set all the permissions at the root collection level, in some organizations there may be internal sensitivities where certain divisions within the business are not allowed to see information about the data held by other divisions. I know this is quite rare, but we do see it, especially in some government agencies where they have a large government department that has multiple responsibilities, and the different internal divisions within that organization are not actually entitled to view information about the others. That's in those sort of situations, you don't really set many permissions at the root level. You rather go and do it in the sub-collections level. So in my case, I chose to do my collections as types of sources, but that could be anything. It could be sales, finance, however you want to break it down. It's completely up to you. Monitoring just shows you things like your scans, are they successful or failing? And we went through some of these other things during the presentation, so I won't go into that again. Finally, I'll go to the management section to just show that you can change the name, the friendly name of your Purview account. This is where you also switch features on or off. And it is important to know that the advanced resource sets feature can be a little bit pricey, so it's something that you want to consider using or not. Data estate insights also adds to the cost, and hence why these are features that you can turn on or off. All right, so what I may do, what I've just realized I forgot to do, is to show you what things look like around scans. So for instance, I'll go into Power BI, and you can see here that I have one scan defined, and you can have as many as you want, but it shows you how many assets were discovered in the last run of the scan, how many were classified if that was the case. But you can click on the scan and you can see the history of the scan and what it did. So this is where your administrators would be interested in having a look and making sure that the scans are happening. All right. So with that, I'm going to swing over to talking about pricing. So pricing is an interesting thing with Purview. It's really hard to estimate up front how much you're going to spend on the product. Like with a lot of services within Azure, a lot of things are based on consumption. And so the way that your organization uses Purview is going to have a strong impact on what the cost will be. This is the pricing details page for Purview, and yeah, they give you quite a lot of information to understand what makes up your bill for Purview, I suppose. But again, it becomes really hard to know what you're going to use in advance. So yeah, they give you examples of what the cost is for data map population as an example. And you can see what the cost is. what I don't like at the moment with the way Microsoft is doing this is you'll see this says that Power BI Online is free for a limited time, but they're not telling you when that's going to end, and they're not telling you what it will cost you when it's no longer free. So this is the one area that I think the Purview team needs to work on, is being a little bit more transparent with their clients around the costs. Another example, free in preview. Well, you know, so that's while self-service data access is in preview, they're not telling you what the cost will be once that's no longer the case. So yeah, you can see that, like insights consumption, data estate insights, which I showed you that switch earlier, where you can switch it on or off. You can see that that is the cost per API call. So every time someone goes to look at those insights, there will be cost associated with that. You know, and again, a lot of things that are being set as free in preview with no visibility on what the cost may be when it's no longer a preview feature. Okay, one nice thing to note is that data sharing appears at least that it's going to be free forever. There's the data map enrichment, so the advanced resource sets, it will cost you that, and we'll see that in the pricing calculator shortly. And then the report generation for the insights, etc. And data map consumption. So there's even, well, this is one of the primary costs actually of Purview. The elastic data map that sits underneath everything you've seen, it's the core component of Purview, is always on. It's not like some services in Azure that you can switch off. It's on all the time, but it does automatically scale, hence the word elastic. It will scale as you use it more and more and more. So when you start out, the costs for Purview are actually extremely low. And in general, I should make the comment that in my professional opinion, Purview is bang for buck the best data catalog available in the market today, because although it has competition from much more mature and long-standing players in the space, the costs associated with those other products are astronomical compared to Purview. And so I think for anyone who doesn't already have one of the competing products in place in their organization, Purview should be the first product that you evaluate before spending time and money on the others. So this is the pricing details page for Purview. I'll take you over to the Azure pricing calculator. If you've never seen this is a great tool to try and estimate costs around your Azure usage. And I've already added Purview into this, and just for consistency, I'll make it Central US. So here's the elastic data map. As I said, it's going always on, so 730 hours a month. You're looking at about $300 per month USD. The scanning of other data sources, so other than these two that are free at the moment, this is the part where really it's how long is a piece of string. You don't know how long your scans are going to take in general. You'll start to get a picture once you've used the product for a bit. But I've just randomly said 240, which is 4 hours per month. And that then equates to, with this calculation, to $80 per month. And then the advanced resource sets. Now this is the optional feature that you can turn on or off, but I've assumed that in this case we're going to have it on. So your worst case scenario there is $153. And ultimately that means that the total cost for this entry level implementation is going to be around about the $534 per month. Alright, so moving away from pricing, I also wanted to just very quickly show you how you go about creating a Purview resource. So in the Azure Portal homepage, we click on Create a Resource, and in my case I always just start off by typing Purview. And I do need to pause on this drop down very quickly, because one of my clients recently made this mistake, and it made me realize I don't really know what is going on here. But this Azure Purview preview option is is deprecated and is in fact not what you want today. So I'm actually quite surprised that it's even still on the menu, to be honest. But what you want is the one that is called Microsoft Purview. Once you select that, you'll see that there's only one plan. There's not plans to be selected from here. And, but if we go to the plan section, you'll see that that backed up as well, some information that it's giving you, etc. But we click on the create button and we get offered the usual things that anyone who's created resources in Purview, in Azure will expect to see. We've got the resource group that it belongs to, the account name, location, and it does need to create a managed resource group, and this is where you will give it the name for that. Next is networking, and you, as usual, can choose to allow connectivity from all networks or go on to private endpoints and VNets, etc. But we're not going to get into that detail today. And that's pretty much it. So it's really simple to create. However, I will give a slight warning. This tends to catch people out in that the person busy doing what I'm doing here, creating the actual resource in Azure, does need to be a contributor level at the subscription. It's not enough to be a contributor in the resource group, and the reason for that is that it has to go and create that managed resource group, which is something only a contributor at the subscription level can do. So you will need to probably pull one of your administrators into the process, unless your organization is very loose with your security. Okay, I've jumped back to my slide deck to finish off the last couple of slides. You may ask yourself why Purview is a big deal given that Power BI can already show you lineage. Why this is important is that Power BI's lineage stops at the edge of where Power BI connects to. If, for example, this is a data warehouse, you won't see where the data in the data warehouse came from. Purview, correctly implemented, will provide this end-to-end lineage all the way from the source right through to the Power BI report. In addition, you get the ability for users to see what assets are present in the workspaces that they are not currently members of. This can prevent duplication of effort and greatly assist with discoverability. You also get much better information about your data assets thanks to the curation capabilities in Purview. Right. Resources to study more. There's a link to the Purview homepage on Microsoft, and the links to all the documentation that's available for Purview is available from that location. And as I alluded to earlier in my presentation, I do need to take my hat off to Microsoft around the technical documentation that they've shipped for Purview. It is truly very easy to follow and makes implementing Purview a lot easier and a lot less effort than some of the other data catalogs that I've worked with in the past. So with that, thank you. Hope you got a lot of value out of this session, and that you appreciate the immense value that this technology can offer your enterprise. With that, I'll just also say a special thanks to Microsoft for supporting this summit, and yeah, just also to say thank you to the attendees of the session, and remind you that you can win prizes, and yeah is the information, the 3 different ways in which you can do so. You can post your selfie with a hashtag, you can give the session and conference feedback, and visit the sponsors and exhibitors. And there's all the information that you need for the socials. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much and goodbye.